Welcome to Not Your Grandma's HR podcast, presented by Tilt. Today on the podcast, we have Marycarl Feldman, who is the head of HR and financial systems at Airtable. We are so excited to talk with her today about all things HR technology, AI, and advice for the future. Let's dive in. Enjoy. First thing, why don't you just tell me a little bit about you and your company and what you're all about?
Yeah, definitely. So my name is Marycarl, obviously. I am the head of HR technology and finance technology here at Airtable, which just really means that I manage all of the systems that have anything to do with HR technology or HR. So, compensation, et cetera. So I've been at Airtable for about 2 years now. It feels like probably 10 years or something like that because we're a
Yeah.
startup. We're scaling pretty fast.
Mhm.
And so, yes, so Airtable is really about, it's an application that it's a way, our platform to build applications that are more like connected apps and trying to find the spaces within other technology that there may not be a space for, essentially, and to create applications to connect all of that.
Cool.
Probably didn't describe that very well, but
No, that
yeah. And
sounds really awesome.
so I think it's a good pairing for me because I'm in technology as well, and so I do use like our own product within my space, my HR technology space and financial technology space as well.
Is your company remote? Is it in person, hybrid?
So right now we're mostly remote. We're
Mhm.
not telling people to come into the office. But, for example, today we've had some meetings, and so there's some people that are coming into the office. I think we leave it up to certain orgs, to be honest. So there might be certain orgs where that particular leader is like, hey, I want you to come in Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday or et cetera. But as a company as a whole, we don't have a policy of like a day that you should come in.
Gotcha. And how many people are in your organization?
In the company as a whole, we're around like 900 employees.
Gotcha. Do you like the hybrid situation? Do you prefer working remotely?
I think I like the hybrid situation. I think that being fully remote has sort of been an adjustment, right? Especially for somebody that's a
Mhm.
little bit more extroverted like me.
Yeah.
And I think that there is value of having some kind of normalcy to come into the office. Maybe not
Yeah.
all the time, but just having some kind of a cadence, which really provides connection with with either my direct reports or the people that you work with. And so every time I come into the office, there's just like kind of this energy that you don't get from Zoom being in this little box, right?
Mhm.
Like, for example, if you and I were talking live, it would be a little bit different than you're seeing me in this little tiny box
Yeah.
and not really
Def-
understanding everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get that. We are fully remote at Tilt, and we are having our company retreat later this year, and I could not be more excited to see everyone in person. That being said, I don't miss going into an office every single day either. So I'm kind of with you. I see both sides of it, and the human connection part is definitely a major part of seeing people in person. Can you tell us kind of what you're in charge of specifically with your role?
Yeah. So with my role, I'm in charge of HR technology. So anything that has to do with systems to support my HR partners. So it's kind of nice because I kind of get the breadth of the entirety of HR. So, for example, I support our HR operations team, I support our HR business partners, I support our compensations team, our benefits team. So, any kind of system, like for example, you're going to do open enrollment in a system. So I take care of that system. If you're going to do comp planning in a system, then I do that. Do you want to look at your salary? Do you want to get paid? All of those systems are under my area, essentially.
Dang. Yeah, you're in charge of a lot. And that kind of leads us to the next question that I wanted to ask you is what role does technology play in your employees' benefits?
I
It
mean,
sounds like you have a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it plays like such a big role, right? Because within the HR world, you've got the people, technology, and process. So those are the three pillars that need to be aligned in
Yeah.
order for employees to have a really good experience and be able to, for example, get their pay and get their, their benefits on time and all of that. And so, yeah, within my space, I have to be very close to the process and know the process and make sure that with every technology that I either deploy or, present to my stakeholders or an employee, I
Mhm.
have the employee experience in mind. And, what is that going to look like to the employee? Are they going to be able to access the information fast enough and efficiently? So technology is a really huge piece as well, right? In terms of
Yeah.
HR.
Yeah, I love you talking about the employee experience being like the number one thing, because it really is like that is the point of all of these technologies, and why people get into human resources is for the people. So I love that that is what is in the forefront of your mind going into it.
Mhm.
What benefit or benefits do you think your employees value the most?
Yeah, it's hard to pinpoint because from just a healthcare perspective, if we're just looking at that type of benefits without any type of anything outside of that, we have really great benefits, right? And so I think that employees do appreciate that. But I think in this type of world where post pandemic, while that is important, I think also it's important for employees to have autonomy, feel like they're that people care about them, right? Because again, we're not coming into the office and all of that. And so I think that I think the employees really appreciate like our culture. And so within our culture is like making sure that employees know that they have like some form of autonomy, that they're cared for.
Yeah.
And I think that that's probably what's most important because the benefits, yes, we have great benefits and we have all of that, but I think post pandemic, like I said, there's just more to that that employees would want.
Autonomy and trusting each other to do what is best for ourselves and the company makes you love your company even more and appreciate it so much more whenever you're getting these benefits that aren't necessarily like a benefits package, but it's like you said, the company culture.
Yeah, and then one thing I think that has really worked out, and I don't have, I'm a technologist, right? So I'm like, oh, I wish I had statistics for you or something like that. But we did go to, having like PTO that was accrued and everything to just having flexible time off, and I think again goes along with the theme of having some kind of autonomy and just, you know, after the pandemic and not being able to travel and all of that, I think that now, having that flexible time off and saying, okay, you can work remote, these are things that I think are more valuable now than, maybe just having good health care or something like that, because so many people have that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
100%.
obviously like back in the yeah, and then also back in the day when we used to come into the office, right? So it's just like, oh, you had really good snacks or you had, lunches every single day. Obviously like that stuff no longer really matters, right? Because
Yeah,
you don't have people coming into the office all the time. And yeah, I think it's
right.
just knowing that that a company really cares for you as much as you care for that company. And I think things like, flexible time off and, being hybrid and things like that, I think provide that sense of, you know, autonomy and security.
Yeah, I completely agree. I love that. What are some of the biggest challenges that you face in your position?
I think the biggest challenges that I face in my position, just specifically as a technologist, is that, I think that things are constantly changing, right? And in HR, specifically in the HR technology world, I have to keep up with what's going on within the world. What are some best practices?
Mhm.
And so I think it's just that, and also, I think we're coming up to times too where there's always like people feel like there's a recession coming and like all of that stuff, and we're trying to, just trying to kind of I don't know, compensate for that. But just from a technology perspective, I think it's just changing and then being able to make sure that just from a systems perspective, I'm able to be flexible and being able to change the system as like our culture
Yeah,
changes or as a company changes.
definitely. And what do you do? I know you talked about the autonomy and different things, but is there anything else that you feel like you do to take your employee support kind of to the next level?
So I think from an employee perspective and being a part of Airtable, I just think it's just, we have like weekly all hands. I think that, we've got quite a few things like, Slack is really helping as well. And we've got Slack channels. And again, it's just feeling like connected, and then feeling, that feeling the culture of our company, even being remote, is really important. And so, we're always discussing, and this isn't just like within Airtable, like even within my friend group, is like, well, if you're fully remote, how do you know that this company has culture? How do you feel like you're a part of that culture? Because you're not really seeing anybody. And, what does
Yeah.
that take? And I think that overall Airtable has done like a really good way of doing that, is because, our leadership is committed to having all hands every week. And that's a pretty big deal, right? We're always constantly communicating with employees and over communicating. And from an employee perspective, I think that's great for me because once again, I feel like I'm connected. I don't feel like I'm just this person that is working in her home, etc.
Yeah, that is so crazy. Airtable sounds so similar to Tilt because we also have all hands every single week. And my friends ask me the same questions. They're like, don't you get lonely like working at home, or do you feel like you're really connected? And we have Slack, and we have so many like fun Slack channels that we can talk to our coworkers in and stay up to date in. And the same with like really like almost an over communication about things, which is amazing, because you
Mhm.
don't see people, in passing on the way to your desk or whatever. But yeah, the Slack and the all hands and all of that just sounds so similar to what we got going on over here too. And it makes a world of a difference. It really does make you feel like a part of something when you're not physically there. If you were to start all over again, what advice would you give to your younger self?
I would say my biggest advice, and it'll be kind of funny because my career has been quite linear.
Hmm.
But I would say that having a career and getting to an end goal in your career and being happy is not linear, right? And so the world isn't like you really have to get an education, you have to complete college, and you have to do a good job, and you will get there. I think that sometimes you either take a longer road, but you'll get there, right? So if you want to be, for example, like a director, it does, it may take you like a zigzag kind of way, but you'll get there. Or if you really want to do this, but you want to take some time off and figure yourself out, like these are really good things. Because I think with me, I struggled so much, like, okay, I got to go to school and I got to get this job and I got to get this promotion. And I just put so much pressure on me that looking back on it, I'm like, why did I do that? A
Yeah.
career it's not like step 1, 2, 3, because I see people around, either at Airtable or other colleagues where I love to hear the stories because they haven't gone 1, 2, 3. Some of them haven't even graduated, for example, college. And they've gotten, to this amazing like leadership level, for example. And so that's what I would say to myself is life or career is not linear, and you don't have to, you just, you can take some risks there. You don't have to always be, you know, type A, which is what I am.
Yeah, I relate to that. I'm also type A. And I feel like that's going to hit well with so many people, whether they're just starting out in their career or they are further along. I think it is so easy for us to get stuck in our heads and like, I have this, 3, 5, 10 year plan that like all of these things have to happen in order before I move to the next one. And if I take a step back, then like that means I failed. But you're so right, is it's not linear and it can go in every which way. And like you are going to get to where you need to go. The
Yeah.
path might be a little different, and I also love hearing everyone else's stories because it makes me feel like I'm not alone either, like, I'm not the only one feeling this way.
Yeah. And I think that sometimes, stories or what makes a person interesting is that they don't have that path, and also that they've made mistakes and they've come out of those mistakes on top. So I
Yeah.
think that, another thing would, be, I know you asked for one, but I'm going to give you two, is just like, it's
Please.
okay to make mistakes, right? It's okay to make mistakes. That makes you a more interesting person. You grow out of mistakes. You grow out of these things. And so, yeah, I was so hard on myself, I think, in the beginning of my career.
Yeah, it is honestly, I need to take that advice because I am the kind of person that like wants to get it right on the first try every time. And I would never expect that out of someone else. So I don't know why I am so hard on myself. So I'm going to take your advice. You don't have to be
Yes.
perfect. You can make mistakes. It's okay.
Yes. You'll get there.
Yeah. On the topic of advice, are there any book recommendations, either in the field of HR or technology or career or just in general that you think that everyone should read?
I'm more of a podcast person,
Okay. Any
more of
podcast
a
recommendations?
social media person. So I follow different people on social media and different career coaches and stuff. So one podcast I really like is called Second Life. And it's more geared towards women and women entrepreneurs, and you kind of and most of them have had sort of like a second life. They've started out thinking they were going to do this, and then they decided like their passion was going to do this, and then they follow their passion. But so it's also really great to hear those stories, because again, you start to realize, wow, like you're the creator of this, but you really struggled to get there, and you really had to, put all of these things aside and make sacrifices. So I really, really like that podcast. And I would suggest it for you, actually. I think you would really love that podcast, Second Life. Yeah.
That sounds so awesome. And it honestly reminds me of, I might recommend it to our CEO, Jen. I feel like would be an amazing guest on that podcast because it sounds exactly like her story. She started out in, the Fortune 500 companies, like making her way up. And then she, got pregnant and needed to go on maternity leave. And then she like had to battle that and like not getting promotions. And then she got back into it. And then it happened again. She had another baby and then they did not give her a promotion that she was set for. And that's when she decided like, this is not fair. The leave world is not what it should be. Like, I'm done with this. I'm going to make this right. Like, leave should not suck.
Oh,
So
I love that.
yeah.
See, everybody has like such an awesome story.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. I'll definitely check it out. The last question is, tell us one thing that you think is changing or on the rise in your field. Maybe something you think that's going to be different than it has been in the past.
Yeah. I think that in terms of HR, and not just in my HR technology space, but HR as a whole and processing and everything, I think AI is playing such a huge role right now. And it's such a buzzword that sometimes I'm like, I kind of cringe. I'm like, oh no, people are talking about AI again. Because it kind of had like this, and then everybody's like, okay, now I'm like, okay, can we stop talking about AI? But no, I think AI and machine learning and stuff, just from a systems perspective, I think that we're making headways with a lot of like the systems that I support, because we're thinking about how do we make people's lives easier, how do we automate, and how do we use AI within the HR space itself. Is just like, how do we use AI to gather and predict more information to help our employees and to help HR as a whole, right? Even like, for example, I'll just give you a quick example, like career framework. How do we use AI to do career framework? So you've got like a list of things that somebody wants to do. You've got like these skill sets. Could AI say, well, here's possible paths for you, right? And then if you have that data within like your company, within your HRIS, the data can be used to sort of either predict career paths and things like that. So that's another thing I think that, or like that's the biggest thing. I think that's going to be like a game changer. Obviously, with AI, there's also the concern that AI might be biased, right? And so as an HR technologist, even as an HR person, we also like the opportunity to use AI, but have that view that, perhaps not that we shouldn't, but we should be aware of like what that also means, because, could there be some biases that AI would have, I don't know, like in the recruiting space or, whatever. But I
Yeah,
think AI is going to be a game changer.
I agree. It is everywhere right now, but I totally agree with you that I think, can help us so tremendously and make people's lives easier, the people who we serve and that we're doing all of this for. But it really also, it takes a human connection too, paired along with it. Because some people are like, aren't you worried that AI is just going to take your job? And I'm like, no. Have you ever used it? Like, it doesn't sound like a human person talking to you. Like, it can help get you where you need to go so much quicker and give great ideas, but it still is not anything like having a person in front of you.
Yeah, not at all. And I think that we thought about that with the internet. We thought about back in the day, like we thought about that with Excel, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think what AI is bringing to the table is it's going to make us change how we view things, right? How are like, whether it's jobs, whether it's like philosophy, whether it's like technology and automation. I think it's just the beginning. It's still a baby. And I think that the more and more we think through that is going to create jobs. And I think that, like kids now are going to have different jobs than we have because of AI. So I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I never think that it's going to take over someone's job, maybe like some like little things, but I think it's going to create a lot of different jobs. And I think it's going to create a lot of different opportunities for just humans.
I love that perspective. Yeah, I think you're totally right. I think we are just dipping our toes in and we have no idea what's to come. Just like, when the internet was first introduced, and same with like Excel and all of the technology that we're so used to now, I think that's how it's going to be with AI. Is there anything else that you would like to add before we sign off?
No, I don't think so. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. This was a great
course.
conversation. I can't wait to share it with everyone. So just, thank you so much. If you have any other questions, be sure to reach out, let me know.